Hey guys, HelpingHans here, bringing you the third episode from Whispers from the Past Militaria. This time, right at night, we're looking at a bunch of medals, and specifically they're focused on the Luftwaffe. I hope you enjoy this episode. Here we go. I think you said you had like something to do with the Mediterranean campaign as well, right?
Yeah, correct. So, well, more so the Spanish Civil War. So we've got a set of medals that were all awarded to one flyer, a pilot, and it basically chronicles his entire journey that started during the Spanish Civil War, which I guess you could say were the glory days for the Reich, which is when they were victorious. And it basically goes right up until the conclusion of the war. And this particular chap and the awards that we'll see at the moment ended up in the Bundeswehr after World War II and was test flying Arado fighter planes. So a lot of the guys in Luftwaffe were commandeered either by the Western Allies or by the Soviets after the war. And as much as the Nazis are reviled in contemporary history, unfortunately, they were pretty much responsible for everything from the moon landings to all of the advancements that both the Soviets and the Allies had after the war, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
so that's why
a lot
pieces
of
like this is so important.
German scientists were taken, weren't they, from both the Americans and the Russians to help work on other projects and stuff down the line. So it's always interesting.
Yeah, correct. As much as the Yanks don't like to hear it, their entire space program, and which culminated in landing on the moon, was pretty much led entirely by Nazis. How ironic! So,
right. So, shall we start with the first medal here?
Yeah, we shall. So before we jump into that realm, I've got something else that's rather special, and I thought that it would be relevant to Company of Heroes 3 as well. So I have here an Anti-Partisan Badge, gold grade, which is one of the rarest medals that you can acquire out of the arsenal of medals. There were three different variations, which was often the case with Third Reich awards. You had the bronze, which was for 20 days of fighting. You had the silver, which was for 50 days of fighting, and here you have a gold, which is for 100 days of fighting. So this particular badge was instituted by Adolf Hitler on the 29th of Jan, 1944, but it was valid retrospectively from January 1943. So that means that any of those accumulated combat days prior to that date, they were also taken into consideration. So this award was handed out to leaders, subordinates, teams of units who were fighting against partisans. And once again, we discussed the different stages. And Himmler reserved the right to hand over the badge in gold. And,
oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
So
most of the ones.
Sorry to interrupt you. It's not fully gold, is it? The whole badge, or is it just
no?
It's like
it's actually not. Yeah, it's not made out of gold at all. So it's actually made. I shouldn't be touching this with my hands. I always say this, but I did wash thoroughly. You don't want the oils to damage the surface. Is that zoomed in correctly there? Can you see it clearly?
Somewhat. It's a little bit blurry, but yeah, we can make out some details in there.
Let's have a look. Hang on, let's try and zoom in on it. So to answer your question, it's made out of zinc, and it's fire gilded in gold. So you can see here on the back, the gilding has worn out. This particular piece is by the maker Juncker, and that's characterized by the pin mechanism that it has, and also the excisions here in the metal. So if you can see there, you can clearly see.
I would advise maybe the box slightly to one side because the camera might be focusing on that.
Yeah, it's quite possible. Let's give it another go. Hang on. Is that better? I don't think so. It's really weird.
Not really. Hang on.
There we go.
There you go. Yep, that's good. Yeah, I can see it clearly there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, so they're gorgeous awards. They're very intricate, and actually, if anyone's curious, if you check out the John Wick series, I don't know why, but a lot of the guys in the John Wick movies are wearing reproduction anti-partisan badges.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is really strange. So if you Google it, if you Google John Wick anti-partisan badge, or the Germans used to refer to it as the bandit badge, you'll see these. So another important date with these is that after the 5th of October 1944, this was not only limited to the Wehrmacht, the Waffen-SS, or the Einsatzgruppen, who were the primary forces who were fighting against the so-called partisans. It was then basically open up to anybody who was involved in guerrilla warfare, who was fighting partisans, which included civilians as well. But the gold badges are very coveted. To find them in this state of reproduction, in this state of preservation, is very difficult. With this particular one, it's possible that it might have been regilded, but it's definitely a gold grade because you can see the particles of the gold on the back. And quite often with these awards, you'll find that all you can see is the remnants of the gold on the back,
Right.
and flecks on the front. So yeah, they're pretty special pieces. Not many of them around, especially not in the gold grade.
I've never seen one before myself, so it looks really cool. So what are the so you've obviously got the swastika in the top piece. You've got snakes at the bottom and a skull right at the bottom. So
Yeah, correct.
what is this? Do you know what the snake symbolise? Is it just like serpents? Or,
Yeah, I certainly do. It actually represents
like by the
Medusa.
feet or
So
whatever?
this was a badge that was
harassing you.
designed in tandem with Himmler's conceptualizations. Himmler was somebody who was very much oriented around occultism and mythology, and it's representing or depicting Medusa because the idea was that with the partisans you cut one head off, and it springs forth again. Which is why I got this.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's cool. That's interesting.
yeah. So it's a really cool looking badge. So yeah, do we have any questions from the audience about this particular
Baby,
piece?
yes, the 44 tournament is later today in about an hour's time, mate. Yep, just open the flop. Yeah, so if anyone in chat has got any questions about this badge particularly, got any insight at all, would like to hear your questions. If not, we'll move on to the next badge. But yeah, I think I've never seen that badge. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a very rare badge.
Horn Dog's got a question here. He says, "What does the laurel or plants represent?" So the oak leaves on the
the
badge.
oak leaves. Yeah. So you quite the Germans, and I guess the military in general, the oak leaves were quite often featured, and that's no different here. So it's basically just a laurel, as you described, or a wreath of oak leaves, which generally is a indication of gallantry and I guess they've been using such depictions since Roman antiquity and even before then. So it's basically just a carry through, and you see that in lots of combat awards. And then you've got a stylized. It's not focusing again. You've got a stylized swastika, so it's not the usual swastika. As you can see, it's a mobile swastika because it's pitched on an angle, and it's got almost like a Teutonic inspired style with the arms of the swastika sort of overlapping and extending in a circle.
Just a quick thing. I think if you move your keyboard out of the shot, I think that will help a lot with the camera focusing on the one object on the screen, which is the medal.
Yeah, I reckon it'll probably take a second to catch it. Yeah, that's better, I think. So yeah, shall we move on to the next piece, guys?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll start with another smaller piece, and then we'll go out into the large display case, which is very impressive. So now we're going back in time to a time when the Reich was succeeding. So we're talking about the Spanish Civil War. So this is a Spanish cross in bronze with swords. So we'll see if we can get it focused up so we can see the detail, because these are absolutely beautiful. The Spanish Civil War is a topic that interests me greatly. I think it's one that's quite often dismissed, not discussed. Are you having issues seeing that clearly?
If you hold it there, yeah, there is perfect. Yeah, just hold it there. I think it'll be good. So yeah, we can see it's got 4 swords going into the center. with eagles and swastikas on each one, and a swastika in the centre. And then you've got the typical kind of iron cross as the kind of the backdrop for it.
Yeah, correct. So this one is a Maltese Cross. A lot of the crosses were stylized from the Maltese Cross. So these particular badges have beautiful characteristics on them. They're very, very detailed. I'll try and zoom in right onto the swords, because it's a shame if you can't see the full detail. I'm not sure why we're having this problem today.
There you
That's
go.
Better.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So you can see the hilt on the swords is extremely try that here. There you go.
Yeah.
That's better.
Don't move.
Yeah. So you can see the level of detail and the pebbling on the cross. Okay, so we've got a question. The Germans play a part in the Spanish Civil War. They didn't just play a part; they won the Spanish Civil War. So the Civil War was effectively a testing ground, which then led on to the introduction of World War II. So all of the kit that they had, some of the earlier light tanks, the Junkers bombers, the Stuka dive bombers that you see in Company of Heroes 2. That's where they basically tested all of these weapons. And then on the other side, the Americans and the Soviets were sort of dipping in and out with their involvement. And the German equipment pretty much completely obliterated everything that everybody else has, and they had a sweeping victory. So that's why they came in with such confidence into World War II. And that was also the induction or the inception of when they started to experiment with all of their blitzkrieg tactics and their combined force tactics, which is something that the Germans pioneered. So this particular badge has the swords. In military awards, specifically in German awards, if something has swords on it, it means that they're for combatants. So once again, this particular award came in 3 different versions. You had the gold, silver, and the bronze. This one's being a bronze. And then you've got versions without swords as well. But they only extend to bronze and silver. There was never an award that was handed out that didn't have swords that was gold, if that makes sense.
Okay, I didn't know that. And do you know if this medal has any history itself? Is there any proof that who owned this medal in particular?
This particular piece, no. So this was purchased by a customer just a couple of days ago, and it doesn't have a provenance sheet. When awards have provenance and they come also with their certificates, it adds significant value to the particular award. But this award is in a superb condition. This would have been a purchase piece. So with these particular awards, you had award pieces and then you had purchase pieces. It doesn't possess any hallmarks on the back, but you can determine who the maker was by characteristics that are determined by the catch, the pin mechanism, the pebbling on the front of the award. So with this particular piece, if I was taking a guess, I would say that it's an Otto Schickel in terms of the maker. Okay. But it's in very good condition. Quite often you find these in really crappy condition, and the prongs on the stars are bent, they've been dropped. These awards are very often faked, but it's very obvious to pick out the fakes because you look at the intricate detail, and no one's going to go to the effort of making an award like this. These are all mastercrafted by jewelers, and as you can see, yeah, they're very, very impressive in terms of their overall craftsmanship.
And we've got a question from Militaria Man. Nice name, dude. It says, "What's the eligibility requirements for something like this? So how was one awarded this type of medal?"
Look, it really varied. So once again, drawing back to the different varieties of awards, the ones without the swords, especially in the bronze and the silver, were usually reserved for guys who were serving in auxiliary positions in naval units that participated in the Spanish Civil War. The guys who received the other awards were usually pilots. The majority of them went to pilots and also to some tankers, but it was basically just based on combat victories and on flights. So I would imagine that the chap who got awarded this would have done a successful bombing run. He probably took out another plane, maybe even a couple of planes. and it would have resulted in him receiving this award. It's really hard to tell. The Germans did have very specific set criteria, but I reckon he probably blasted a few planes out of the sky, and that would have resulted in him receiving this award, or maybe doing a successful bombing run.
Okay.
It's also another possibility as well. So the greater majority of them were handed out to the guys who were flying. There's also another higher version of the award. You also have the Spanish Cross in gold with diamonds, and I also have a couple of those in my collection, but I'm saving that for a special occasion and for closer to when we get to the launch of Company of Heroes 3.
Cool, awesome. Justin says, I reckon they can get a couple more swastikas on the... Yeah, it does look 5 swastikas is a bit much on the thing. I think, yeah. But I guess, I do appreciate the level of detail on that badge. It is quite impressive.
Yeah, it's stunning. So just to cut in quickly, if you have a look at the Allied Awards, there's nothing that comes even close to the intricacy and the detail and the effort that they put into them. That applies to the Soviets, to the British, and to the Americans. I think the American awards are probably the most horrendous in terms of their aesthetic appeal out of all of the awards. So yeah, they put a lot of effort into it, and I think that's partly also the mentality that led to them losing the war, because everything had to be done to the absolute nth degree and to perfection, and that obviously takes up time, resources, effort, money, and it takes away from other things. So there.
Baby 3334 is saying, not to throw shade, but what is the expert's credibility? So they're asking about your background, Gerard.
Yeah, sure. Well, number one, I'm the grandson and the great-grandson of veterans on the Axis side. That aside, I'm a lawyer by day, which doesn't necessarily place any credibility on my historical knowledge, but I've also got a degree in contemporary history, and I've been collecting for a really, really, really long time. When I say that, I'm in my mid-30s myself, but I've been an avid collector ever since I was a teenager, and I've actually amassed a very large collection myself, and I collaborate with some of the most reputable historians and resellers and auction houses and specialists all over the world. So I've got lots of contacts all over Germany, the United States, Canada, and I've got a passion for it. So hopefully that answers the question. There are lots of guys actually who are online who are detractors. They claim to be experts, and that can be really unhealthy for the hobby. Very easy to criticize, but it's a lot harder to actually put your money where your mouth is and to show the pieces, because these are all very expensive pieces. The Anti-Partisan Badge that I showed you before would be worth around the €15,000 mark.
Wow, Jesus.
Yeah, it's very expensive, potentially even more in that state of preservation. And this particular badge here, especially in this condition, could go anywhere between, depending on the auction house of the day, ranging from say €900 to €2,000 for the bronze grade one.
Damn.
So yeah, they're not cheap. So yeah, if you are seeking to get involved in the Militaria game, always important to ask about the credibility and the credentials. Getting a clear understanding of the knowledge. Is there a history? I mean, for example, I was privy to seeing lots of these badges and hearing stories from veterans, not just from other collectors. And once again, I take risks and I actually buy the pieces. I don't just look at textbooks. It's very important to handle the pieces. You have to understand how the texture of the metal feels, how the tunic smells, etc., etc. So every single piece has a different a criteria according to which you can assess originality. And that being said, I'm not an expert in everything. I predominantly focus on awards, and that's what I'm good at. Signature groupings and personality pieces as well. So they're my 3 passions when it comes to Militaria.
Awesome. Well, Baby's asking, did you hear any interesting stories from veterans? But as we only have about less than 40 minutes left before my tournament starts, we probably should be cracking on to the next medal, I would imagine, at the moment.
Yep, and I'll just quickly answer one question before we do something. Somebody's asking questions about the whether or not it's a niche hobby. Is that correct?
No, he's just saying, it is a niche hobby generally. Not every person cares. He just thinks it's interesting that people are so passionate about niche hobbies like this, for instance.
Yeah, but I'll actually agree with Ritz in saying that it's actually not niche. You could be surprised how many musicians, celebrities, doctors, lawyers, politicians actually collect. The hobby is massive all throughout Saudi Arabia, Japan, China. There's a lot of prestige in collecting awards. The Russians collect the awards like crazy. So yeah, that's right. Lemmy from Motorhead had a massive collection, and many other musicians as well. So
I
yeah,
didn't
you
know.
could be
That's
really, really
interesting.
surprised. Yeah, there are a couple of Hollywood film actors in Australia who I've dealt with before who have acquired pieces from me. So yeah, you could be really surprised. So there you go. It's a really, really profitable hobby, and for anybody who does want to get involved in high investment grade militaria, it's much better than having money in the bank. Awards appreciate very, very rapidly. And if you look at historical data from, say, the 1950s, right up until now, they increase every year with value. So it's yeah, it's a really cool hobby to get into. So
So
if
actually,
anybody, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
sorry to interrupt you. I was going to say on
No,
that
not at all.
subject, for instance, let's say you had the typical Iron Cross, that second class Iron Cross. What, for instance, one of the ones you sent me.
Yeah, sure.
When a few years ago when I purchased my first one, it was about £100, and that was based on no background history. So, can you give me like a rough idea of like year on year or maybe decade on decade how much more they're worth?
Yeah, sure. Look, all of it. Look, everything goes in trends as well. So there are certain theaters of war, certain awards that will come in and out of vogue, but they'll never lose their value. So to give you an example, I bought my first Knights Cross of the Iron Cross probably 7 years ago. Now, when I purchased my first Knights Cross, there were 7,500 of them awarded, slightly more produced because there were shop versions, there were versions that they were using for displays in museums, etc., etc. I paid around 9,000 US dollars at the time for my Klein and Quenzer. Now, if you're wanting to acquire a Klein and Quenzer Knights Cross these days, you're probably looking at around 20,000 euro for a good one.
Wow,
So the values have exponentially grown,
Jesus,
and then it
this
depends on provenance, who was it
how
owned
many years ago?
by, the state of preservation,
9,000 to
etc., etc. So there
20,000
are
in
lots of
7 years.
factors of consideration, and depends how well it goes at the auction house. So yeah, next show I think I'll showcase some actual personality pieces just to give the audience an idea of some exciting stuff. But yeah, really good investments, really, really good investments. So for example, at the moment, the Kriegsmarine, i.e. naval medals, aren't faring as well as what they normally do. So if anybody's wanting to collect, a hot tip, definitely start looking at the Kriegsmarine stuff because it can only go up. Spanish Civil War stuff is very much in vogue. The other interesting thing about the Spanish Civil War and the Spaniards is that the Spanish had their own division in World War II, and it was regarded as a volunteer division because, as you may or may not know, Franco didn't want to pull Spain into another conflict, but he did still support Hitler. They were very close allies, so they had the Division Azul, or the Division Blue, as it were in English. And there's an entire category of German awards that were made by the Spanish. And I'll show you the contrast next show between, say, an Iron Cross first class made by the Spanish versus one that was made by the Germans. So you can
Yeah,
see
that'd be
pretty
really
distinct
interesting to see the
differences.
difference there, actually.
Yeah, so I'll actually
Well,
bring
thank
one
you
on
very
the
much for the
show.
follow, dude.
I'll
Cheers,
show
mate.
you. But the Spaniards were permitted to wear the swastika after World War II, and the vets were wearing them up until recently. They were never banned from wearing the swastika, and they were still producing replacement medals for veterans right up into the 1990s, and they would wear them, with pride at parades.
And
Um,
have they been banned now, though, or?
Look, there is a bit of a resentment towards it, but I don't think it's banned as such. As you may or may not know, they relocated Franco's grave not long ago. They took him out of the Hall of Champions, as it were. And they moved his body elsewhere. So there's a bit of a leftist revival in Spain as well. But yeah, they were wearing them, and a lot of the guys at the conclusion of World War II ran to Spain and to Latin America and all over the place. So yeah, so there you go.
Interesting. Okay, let's move on to the next medal that you have.
Done. So I think everybody's going to be suitably impressed by what I've got next. Very, very, very rare to find a complete presentation case. There's a lot of history behind this one. I'm not sure how we're going to film this because it's massive. Okay. So let's see if I can get a nice camera angle on this award set.
The lighting's gone all funny for some reason.
Yeah, I know. I think it's because my ring light's blasting us. Hang on, let me see if I can just get the camera just right before we launch into this next one. It's reflecting off the lid.
Yeah.
I might have to just dumb it down a little bit. One sec, guys. I do apologize about this. Okay. Hey, Kimbo, thank you for saying hello. I watch your games all the time online. This is a pain in the ass, isn't it? I might have to manually steer this. What do you reckon? What do you reckon, Hans?
Yeah, it might be better if you just have the camera focus on each medal one at a time, I guess.
Yeah, I just want to give people a perspective of the case. So hang on, I'll swing it like this. I'll give everybody a look at the case. It's very grand. It's a presentation box that would have been done post-war, but all of the awards are definitely wartime pieces. So when everyone's sick of looking at the actual main case, let me know. I've provided Hans with high def images of everything, so they'll be incorporated, I suppose.
Yep, I can bring them up real quick.
Yeah, sure, that'll be great actually. While I get my my business organised over here.
So here are the medals here that is in this case, guys.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Let's do it this way. So if the audience is happy with that. So this is the Spanish Cross in gold with swords. It's a mint Spanish Cross, and this was the highest level that was awarded for aerial victories. So the particular maker on this one is Otto Schickel. Once again, so I'll show the back of the award after we go through this one. So I'll give you a bit of a background on this this pilot. The pilot who was attributed all of the awards had 10 aerial victories. He was flying with the Jag Gruppe 88 in Spain, which was famous for the Junkers dive bombers and the Stuka dive bombers. Same thing. He received 5 victories in Spain. He then received a night victory in the West during World War II with the Nachtjagers, with the night fighters. And then he received a further 4 victories against the Soviets later on during the war. He survived the war, and then he proceeded to become a pilot in the Bundeswehr, and he was test piloting the Arado fighter planes.
Ah. Interesting. So yeah, it looks quite similar to the medal we just actually had a look at a moment ago, but this is the kind of the gold variant.
Yeah, correct. So the bronze one is made out of bronze. The gold variant is made in this case out of 900 silver, which means that it's got a 90% concentration of silver, and it's fire gilded in 24 karat gold. And this particular piece is in an absolute mint state of preservation.
Yeah, it looks very, very clean. It doesn't look like there's any blemishes on it at all, really.
Yeah, correct. So that adds extra value, and that's the showstopper piece out of the whole set. So that's the most valuable award.
And how much would something like this set one back?
Look, it's hard to say. There's one online at the moment with a reputable dealer that's going for €9,000 plus commission. It's really hard to say. They can go for much more. It depends on who's bidding on it at the time. So this particular piece is not the presentation piece. This is a piece that he would have privately purchased. Quite often the Germans were very finicky. They would have one for daily wear, and then they would have one at home on the mantelpiece, which is why you'll find that when you buy estates from a former veterans, you'll have one that's completely shot to pieces, and then you'll have one that's in mint condition. The awarded pieces usually do go for more, but once again, the state of preservation makes this one particularly special because it's got 100% of its gilding.
Yeah.
So there's a question. Yeah. Does it depend on where it was sold? The military community is very much an international community, so it doesn't really matter. Quite often, these pieces end up back in auction houses all over Germany, Austria. There's a really famous auction house known as Hermann's Historiker, and they're in Germany. There are several dealers. I deal with a lot of clients in the South Pacific. So I've got clients in Hong Kong, Tokyo, all over Australia. So I guess one tip that I can give to guys who are starting out in collecting, I guess stay away from forums. Military forums can be very toxic and very unhelpful. You get your head and your ears completely full of the wrong ideas. People quite often mislead people intentionally because they've got agendas and they sell stuff. If you're getting involved, always contact a reputable professional and just take it easy, and always acquire information from as many angles as you can. There are some good reference guides out there, but once again, sometimes reference guides use reproductions as well. So you have to be careful on which reference guide you're using. So there's all sorts of hazards in the industry. Yeah, there are a lot of repros, but once again, if anybody does want assistance with ascertaining whether or not a medal is real, feel free to contact me on my Instagram, or if you can't find me on Instagram, ask Hans and he'll direct you. But if you join up on Whispers from the Past Militaria on Instagram, if you can stick the info up in the video description or later on, Hans, please. That'd be awesome. Yeah, look, hit me up, and there's absolutely no charge. I love educating people and preserving the passion. And I suppose anyone who collects these awards, we're just custodians of history. Nobody gets to keep this stuff forever. We get to keep it for a limited time, and then we have the pleasure of passing it on to other people who are historically minded and who love history and want to preserve history. So yeah. Shall we move on to the next piece?
Next medal here. Here we go.
Alrighty. Okay, so here we have the Fabled Iron Cross first class. So I'll show you the back of this award later, but this particular one is a screwback, and it's an L13, which is the maker designation. If you look up the maker, that's a Paul Maybauer in Berlin. So I guess we can move to the next award unless we have any additional questions. Okay, so this is a specific Spanish Civil War award. This is the equivalent of an Iron Cross, but the Iron Cross version that the Spaniards would issue to their troops. So this particular one is the Cruz de Guerra, or the Spanish War Cross Breast Star. And this particular piece is a Type 1. So with these awards, there are multiple variations. I've got a really rare variation if anyone's interested in seeing it. It's actually a German one made in Berlin, not in Spain. And it's made out of 900 silver, which is a really, really rare piece. So if anyone wants to check it out, let me know and I'll bring it out onto the next show.
There's such a incredible amount of detail on this one. If you compare like the two, this looks quite, the German first class Iron Cross looks very plain compared to this one over here. And if you say they're kind of like the same kind of type of medal, as in like what would be awarded, I'd probably prefer the Spanish one, to be honest, because it looks a lot more impressive.
Yeah, it's a really cool award. I love the Spanish awards. There's the craftsmanship is not quite as refined as the German awards, but they do use lots of enameling. But on that subject matter, I'll bring out some of the political awards next time, and I'll show you some awards with enameling and some of the other things, because there are some absolutely spectacular German awards that have really intricate enameling, like the Olympic awards and some of the civil service ones.
Do I read chat? Yes, I do read chat, mate.
You'll be really, really, really impressed. Why iron, though? That's the story around that. So it's a representation of the sacrifice. So it's a Maltese Cross. It goes back to King Frederick. It's got a really complicated, long storyline. So Hans and I were intending on doing a 1 hour session just on the cross. So my suggestion would be to keep yourself tuned in. check my Insta out, and you'll be able to get more info. But either that or just PM me, and I'll send you some research, some information. So yeah, any more questions about the Cruz de Guerra? Nope. Alrighty, shall we jump to the next one?
Yep, next one here.
All right, so this is the pilot badge. This particular piece is by Juncker. So it's the operational badge. It basically denotes that this guy was a very skilled pilot, and I believe he was awarded the badge in 37. And I'll just check that because I've got some notes here. Yeah, he was. He was awarded the badge in 1937. Alrighty. Any questions about the pilot badge? There are loads of different Luftwaffe badges, and then you've got operational clasps and all sorts of other special badges for bombing runs, for night fighting runs.
I've got a question here. I'm noticing that the left side looks different to the right side in terms of like the kind of the leaves going around. Can you tell me why there's that difference there at all?
Yeah, that's really, really well spotted, actually. So on one side you've got the olive leaves, and then on the other side you've got the oak leaves. So it's just a design feature.
And there was nothing else more to that. It was just, you know, they kind of wanted to do half and half on the badge.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. Yeah, it's just a design feature.
And here, the eagle, like you'd see a lot of at times the German or the eagle here carrying the swastika like straight on. Here it's like grabbed it to the side, and the swastika is off center. Is there any reason behind that compared to?
That's actually that's well spotted. So that's when you see a swastika that's pitched on an angle like that, it's referred to as a mobile swastika, suggesting that the swastika is in motion. And I suppose that in this particular instance, it's because the eagle itself is in motion as well. Whereas on some of the other badges, you will find that the swastikas are flush; they're straight on.
So, and the mobile swastika is you'll only see that maybe for Luftwaffe awards, things like that, or is it ever seen on other things?
No, it really varies. So if you go back to the other awards, you'll see that all Iron Crosses have mobile swastikas as well. So if you go back to the image of the Iron Cross, you'll see that the Iron Cross has a mobile swastika also. You probably just didn't notice it.
It looks centered to me. Oh, you talk about this one over here? Yeah, I can see that it's. Yeah, it looks like it's mobile. Yeah, I can see it looks like it's carrying it in this one here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, so this badge itself, what class is it?
Oh, sorry, you dropped out. Can you say that again, please?
I said, yeah, for this current badge we're looking, is it, what kind of class of badge is it, sorry?
So that's a pilot badge.
Pilot badge, right.
Yes,
so,
correct.
So all pilots would have been awarded this, or?
Yes, correct. There were conditional requirements, and they had to satisfy X amount of flights. But this was denoting that they were the pilots. There was also a combined radio operator / gunner badge, which looks completely different. There was an observer badge, and there's also a combined pilots and observer badge, and then there are some other special variations as well. But I'll bring some of those on in future shows. So there are basically badges to designate every single classification. There's a retired pilot's badge, which is extremely rare. They go for about €20,000 a piece if you can get your hands on an original one. So yeah, some of the pilot badges are really rare. Then you've got versions with diamonds as well, which don't even get me started on how much they're worth. So yeah, lots of different variations.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. We've only got 18 minutes, unfortunately.
No, that's all good. We'll speed through it. So this particular one is a short range day fighter clasp in gold. So this came in 3 different versions. You had bronze, silver, and gold. So this was for aerial combat. So the other badge denotes that he's a pilot. This denotes that he was engaged in combat for the maximum amount of operational flights, which would have required for him to classify for the gold one. And this particular one was made by Juncker of Berlin. So it's a really, really, really nice badge in very nice condition, as you can see.
Yeah, I like the arrow signify kind of like the plane and the wings of the wings of the plane kind of thing, like as like
Yeah,
being in motion and stuff. That's interesting symbolism there.
yeah, correct. And just an interesting story about all of the operational clasps. There's a clasp for night fighting. There's a clasp for bombers as well. And it got to the point where they didn't anticipate that the war was going to drag on for so long. And the pilots were, getting absolutely drilled with all of the missions that they were flying. And the gold at one point was the highest variant that they could offer. And then they started to introduce pennants. So what they did was they would stick like a hanger on the bottom of the award, and then they would add additional classes on top of that. So then you would have a bronze pennant, silver pennant, gold pennant, etc., and then you would have numbered pennants as well to indicate even more flights.
Oh wow!
And
So
yeah, there was even a pennant for 2,000 flights. And I'll have to double check who was awarded to. But yeah, the guys ended up flying ridiculous amounts of flights. I've got an award grouping in my collection for a pilot who flew 900 flights, and he got shot down on his 901st sortie. So, yeah, the guys were doing some pretty impressive stuff. Yeah, there were heaps of aces. If you look at a list of aces from World War II, almost all of them are Germans, and then about 3/4 of the way down the list, you've got a Romanian pilot who was of noble background, and then finally you get to a few Russian pilots, and then that's pretty much it. But almost all of the Germans were aces, and of course Riddell was the ace of aces, and he had hundreds of planes that he knocked out of the sky single-handedly. So yeah, they were very, very skilled. Yeah, I believe the Americans did have some aces as well, but nowhere near at the level of what the Germans did have.
yeah, I've just found an image here of a bronze one online here, so you can see the difference here. Still got the kind of like the silver look of the arrow and the wings and the center, but you can see the sides of it is bronze compared to this one here, which is gold.
You see if you can pull one up with a pennant, just to show what the pennant looks like.
I'm trying to look. I'm not sure what I'm looking for exactly. If you could,
yeah, sure. Type in World War II fighter clasp with pennant or with hangers, either one of those. So World War II fighter clasp, pennant or hanger. Should be able to find one.
Not pendant, pennant.
Pennant, yep.
I can't seem to find it. No,
you want me to, hang on,
yeah, if you could maybe link me an image real quick.
Yeah, one sec. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, so I'll link you a 200. Where are we?
So this is the actual case here, guys, with all these medals in.
Try that one. Ironically, it's from the Australian War Memorial as well.
Ah, here we go. So that's what it is. It's got like loops at the bottom, and they have this one says 200.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. So that would have been for 200 flights, which is insane when you think about it. To fly 200 combat missions and to survive when you've got so much, so many adversaries in the air, in the skies and on the ground as well.
Okay, next medal. Here we go.
Okay, so next we've got the sports badge.
Sports badge. I've never seen this one before. Again, I've noticed the same kind of oak leaf, like ring around the center. Yeah, the centerpiece. So what is this kind of this symbol in the center here? What is that?
So this badge is known as the DRL Sports Badge. This particular one is in bronze, or the DRL of the Sports Hub Zycon, which was basically for participating in sporting events that were related to all of the training that led up to the war. So, they would have all sorts of different competitions for athleticism, and they would basically just be awarded with this award to indicate that they were elite sports people, which was integrated into their military uniform.
Was this because I think I remember the Olympics, was it occurred in Nazi Germany at one point, and
Yeah, correct.
were these medals awarded to athletes at the German athletes at that Olympics at all, or was this only during the war?
No, this is a wartime related medal, but there were lots of Olympic specific awards as well. I've got some Olympic awards, and if anyone's interested, I can bring them on to one of the shows in the future. Once again, from the glory period of Germany. A lot of people actually forget that Hitler was awarded Time Man of the Year by the Americans prior to the war as well. So that's the thing. It was an interesting how he was globally revered. Yeah, he was globally revered, and then he turned into a villain. A lot of people may not know that Hitler was actually very, very good friends with Henry Ford as well. Henry Ford was awarded one of the Nazi distinctions as well. There were pilots who were in America that were also involved in the Nazi Party, and the English Royals.
English Royals, as well. They want to try and keep hush about this day.
Yeah. So it's quite surprising. So Henry Ford was a Nazi sympathizer, and he ended up actually producing lots of the planes that ended up bombing Nazi Germany into the ground. So.
Oh wow. Right. Moving on to the next medal here. So this is more of how I normally see the German Eagle presented in medals and stuff, where it's like flat and holding.
Now I understand what you mean. Yeah. So to answer your question retroactively, the swastika was positioned like that because of the eagle taking off on that angle. So now I understand what you mean. So this is a long service medal for the Luftwaffe, and it tells us that this chap was involved in the Luftwaffe for 4 years.
How do you know it's 4 years? Is it because the ribbon that it's on, or?
Yeah, correct. It's the ribbon, and it's pretty much the ribbon indicates that, and also just the style of the award as well.
And what does the text here translate into English? What does that mean?
Have a look. Where is it?
Maybe might have a German in chat.
Let me have a look.
Can you translate?
Doesn't often happen. Yeah.
We might have a German speaker in chat. They might be able to translate for us.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
Loyal service in the Wehrmacht, something like that, apparently. Oh yeah, it says Wehrmacht on the side, on the right side.
Yeah, but it's I'll show you afterwards how you know it's the Luftwaffe one. There's a Luftwaffe Eagle on the ribbon.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think we've still got the Iron Cross second class, and there you go. That's the merit. That's known as a merit cross, and that's without swords. So he must have done something in and around some sort of diplomacy, or he could have been stationed as an instructor at some stage, because usually they award the merit cross with swords for combatants. So this would have been for once again for diplomatic activities or for doing non-combat duties.
It's also obviously white as well, which is I've not really seen a medal, one of these medals being this kind of color. Is that also to denote the fact that it was kind of like diplomacy rather than military?
It's actually oxidization. So this would have been completely silvered.
Oh, really?
At one point in time, and over the last 85 years, 90 years, it would have just oxidized. You quite often see this with the merit crosses. The merit cross also comes, as I said, in a version with swords.
Thank you, Austrian
and there's
Commander.
Also the
Thanks for the
Knight's
translation
Cross
there, buddy.
Of the merit cross with swords and without swords as well. So the Knight's Cross, as you know it, that looks similar to an Iron Cross, is not the only variety of Knight's Cross.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
Yeah. So in a later episode, we'll review the differences between the the different Knight's Crosses. So here we have an EK2, otherwise known as the Iron Cross second class, and this is the the precursor to the first class Iron Cross.
And what's the main difference between a first and second class Iron Cross for everybody in chat?
Okay, so do you have yours there by any chance, so you can show the audience, Hans? Because you can flip it back to front, inside out. I'll display the first class Iron Cross over here while you do the second class, actually. So for those of you who don't know, oh, hang on, we've got a question. Do they always put the date on them? So this is the restitution date for the cross. So Hitler reinstituted the Iron Cross in 1939, which is why it appears on the front. And then you have the restitution dates also for the Franco-Prussian crosses, and then also for the World War I crosses too. There's an 1870 version. There's the World War I version as well. So Hans is going to show you the second class Iron Cross that he has there. So as you can see on the front, you've got 1939. If he flips it around, you'll see that it's got a completely altogether different date. On the back,
1815 is that?
You can zoom in. 1813.
1813. Yeah.
So there you go. Now, if we zoom in on the first class, this is once again a screwback. Over here, they came in different catch methods to secure to the tunic. But then on the back, as you can see, it's got a clamshell screw.
Hang on 1 second, I'm just getting
if I undo that,
bring them up.
You'll see that it's got the position here where it screws into the pillar. And then it's got this, in this particular case on this maker, it's got a little needle that secures it against the tunic so that it doesn't spin. So to answer your question, the second class Iron Cross has 2 sides, whereas the first class Iron Cross, which pins to the breast pocket, has only 1 fascia to it. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm back. What was that?
Oh, you missed everything. We just gave a description on the difference between the first and the second class, and I was explaining to the lads that the second class Iron Cross, even though it's a lower order or a precursor to the first class, has a reverse side to it.
Okay, sorry. Could you mind if I just quickly see the result? I think we missed it with when you tried to show the reverse side.
Yeah,
I didn't have the right scene on there. So it's a screw back on the back.
Yeah, which is screw back, which is I wouldn't say it's rare, but it's a lot more unusual than the pin backs, because they normally have a pin on the back, and that's a clamshell style screw.
Okay.
Shouldn't be reflecting. Yeah.
If you close the lid of the box, it might make a big difference to the.
Yeah, I reckon. Did anybody want to see close-ups of any of the other awards that are inside the presentation case? Any requests, guys? Or did you want to have a look at anything, Hans?
The pictures didn't really show the ribbon on the.
Oh yes, okay.
Very well on this one, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll show you the reverse as well. Hopefully we can zoom in. Hang on. So you can see the Luftwaffe Eagle affixed to the ribbon. So when you see an eagle, if I can zoom in, it's not allowing me to zoom in. It's got, in any case, it's a Luftwaffe Eagle, and it's got a totally different posture to what you would have for the Wehrmacht or for other divisions.
Yeah, you can see it's the mobile one.
Yeah, it's a mobile one because the eagle's flying. And on the reverse, to answer your question, it's got the 4. So you had one for 8 years, one for.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, we can see there. Yeah, hold it there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll just spin it. Hopefully we'll still be able to retain focus. There you go. You can see it clearly now. So you can see clearly that that's a Luftwaffe Eagle. If you look at the commander in the Wehrmacht in Company of Heroes 2, you'll observe that he has the same eagle for the Luftwaffe commander. For the officer, yeah.
It's interesting
So
it
there you
says
go.
Wehrmacht on the medal itself, though, when it's clearly Luftwaffe. Is it just because they did not? Is it just because it's just the standard motto, you think, that they had on these medals?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, and they pertain to the Wehrmacht anyway. I mean, it was the Luftwaffe, and they were obviously a aerial force, but they basically pertain to the army. They didn't pertain to the SS. A lot of people don't realise that the SS and the Wehrmacht were two completely different fighting forces. And at the end of the war, they were actually at odds with one another.
Mine's his
Interestingly
original
enough.
Australian commando. I've got a certificate of
Any
authenticity
other
to prove it.
awards in here that you'd like to have a look at the reverse of, guys?
Yep, we've got a couple of minutes, so if you guys want a last quick look, guys, before we have to head off. Not sure how you say that, Ficker Wolf.
Or any other questions
The
from
medals
the
awarded
audience?
for valour and service, as any other
okay,
country
sure.
would have
Spanish
awarded
Cross.
medals and stuff.
Just plucking
Similar
out.
purposes.
All right. Hopefully we can zoom in on this
So
without
yeah, this one is the most expensive one here.
buggering it up. Yes. Hang on. There we go. Almost. See if we can zoom in on the back. So as you can see, the back, it's got a very, very characteristic Schickel clasp, which is almost like a C shape.
Oh yeah, see that, yeah.
You can see there. It's an unmarked example, but we know it's a Schickel. So when you're looking at authenticity for pieces like this, you always look at the catch and you look at the hinge as well. There we go. That's better.
Yeah, that's good.
So it's absolutely pristine.
Yeah, I can't see any issues with that at all. Very impressive that it's been able to survive that long without having any kind of degradation to it.
Yeah, it's been hiding inside this presentation case. The case is post-war. It wasn't done during the wartime. It was done more than likely by either the family of the veteran or an award association, like the HIAG, which looked after the veterans post-war.
And did you purchase the whole box? Sorry, as a package, or?
Yeah, correct. This actually came from Canada. It came from a very wealthy gentleman who was a Luftwaffe collector, and when he passed away, everything was split up. I'll show one other really cool thing before we have to head off. In here, there's a secret compartment. If you pull it, I'll show you. It opens up, and I've got the pilot's flight records, and I've got some original photographs. So does anybody want to see what the pilot actually looked like?
Oh yeah, definitely. That would be cool.
So I'll pull them out.
But look at this before we're going to start the tournament in a second.
Okay. There's a big blown up photo, and you can actually see him wearing all of the awards that are in this box from the war.
Oh yeah, look at that.
So all of the awards that are in this case are actually.
It's really impressive when you actually have the actual
tunic.
history of the person. Damn. That's really impressive. Wow.
Yeah. And you've got personal letters here. There are some of them original, some of them are facsimiles. That's him standing on his aircraft in the top. Sorry, this is dangling in the way. I can provide you with copies of all of these anyway, Hans, so you can show your audience. So yeah, there's his certificate for his, or a copy of the certificate for his one of his badges as well. That was issued on the 22nd of February 1937. So they're historical. So I noticed somebody in the audience saying before that they're gagging looking at these items, but you have to remember that these guys were pilots. They weren't war criminals. Some of us, myself included, had grandparents, great grandparents who fought in the war, and everybody was fighting for their own motivations. And there were, good stories and bad stories on all sides. And I guess the focus from us is to remember the good stories, because there was lots of good, not just bad.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Gerard, thank you so much for taking the time again today to run us through all these medals and stuff and give some background history and some more details about the medals. I definitely learned a lot today, so thank you very much for sharing that. And again, guys, if you want to go check out Whispers from the Past Militaria, which is what Gerard runs, it is you're currently in the process of getting your website up and running, correct?
Yeah, correct. So look, guys, if you want to join me on Instagram, I'm trying to build up my Instagram presence. If Hans can stick up the link at some stage, I'm sure it'll be up on YouTube as well when this gets published. But it's Whispers from the Past Militaria. I showcase a lot of really, really high-end pieces. I like educating people, so if there's ever any interest with regards to commencing the development of a collection, or if you need something appraised, or if you're buying something from somebody else and you need assistance to determine authenticity, I'm more than happy to help. Yeah, this case is potentially for sale, but if you've got any interest in this piece, or if you know somebody who may, just PM me on Insta, and I'll be more than happy to help.
If you want to put your Instagram link in chat, feel free to do so now. Copy and post it in there real quick so everybody can check.
Yeah, give me a sec.
Motis is asking, how much was the set?
Good question. This set, once again, it depends. It's all in the eye of the beholder, but probably around the 20,000 US mark for the set, which is a bargain.
20,000, guys.
In all honesty. All right, let me find my.
The thing is, though, this will just keep increasing in value down the line.
Okay, cool.
Have something with all the records like
lots
this,
of awesome photos
with the medals.
I'm assembling an upcoming auction in Australia in December with some really, really bespoke pieces, and I'll be doing a promotion and some cool giveaways as well. So I'll just link this now.
There you guys go. Click on the link there in chat.
So yeah, just say g'day, jump on board. As I said, I'll be doing a giveaway, and just let me know that you're from Hans's channel. Give me a shout out, and yeah, we'll go from there.
You can see he's got lots of Instagram pictures of all the different medals and stuff on here of his pieces that he buys and sells. Yeah, so definitely go if you have Instagram, go follow him on Instagram. Here again, the link is in chat.
Awesome, thanks guys, and thank you very much as always, Hans. And hopefully we'll commence with doing things a bit more consistently now that things are getting back to normal in Australia.
Awesome. Well, have a great rest of your day, mate. And again, thanks again for sharing these medals with us.
Yeah, cheers, and thanks everybody in the audience. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Hi, lads. Thanks for watching that video. If you want more content, click up here. Or click over here to click on other content. But make sure to click on that middle button to subscribe to the channel. Okay, and I stream every single day on twitch.tv/HelpingHans. Catch you in the next one, guys. Take care.